I'm Haley B. Miller, and this is Ohio Politics Explained, a podcast where you give us 15 minutes and we give you all the news you need to sound smart and impress your friends. Welcome to another episode of Ohio Politics Explained. Today, we're talking all about Cincinnati, how a violent street fight went viral, spurred debates about crime, and became the latest talking point for Republicans. Here today to help us wade through it all is Scott Wortman, who covers City Hall for the Cincinnati Enquirer. Welcome back to Ope, Scott. It's been a minute.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. I'm excited.
So let's start with a quick recap. Early on July 26, a downtown brawl involving several people got out of control. Video showed one man slapping another man before getting knocked to the ground and beaten repeatedly. Another man punched a woman in the face. These clips blew up on social media and reached conservative influencers, and it all just kind of spiraled from there. How did local leaders and residents react to this initially?
Well, it blew up particularly among conservative accounts on social media, and Republicans. A lot of Republican politicians, the local Republican leadership here, kind of seized on it to blame the Democratic administration. Cincinnati's run it's all Democratic, the mayor, city council. So it gathered steam in like the first 48 hours among conservative commentators, spread nationally. And it took a few days before the Democratic administration and Mayor Aftab Puraval responded. The mayor came out with a statement that Monday, that was more than 2 days after, or about 2 days after the street fight took place. And since then, the Democrats have been just trying to allay fears. They've kind of gone on the defensive, saying, look, we're addressing the problem with safety. The city is safe. And they've been doing what they can to try and tamp down fears. But a lot of it has really broken down, even among the public, along partisan lines. People, Republicans have said they're going to avoid the city, while Democrats are saying, it's safe and this is not indicative of a larger problem.
And wasn't the mayor on vacation when all this happened? Wasn't that part of some of the backlash?
That is a good point. He was on vacation in Vancouver. He said he first saw the videos just before he left on that Saturday afternoon. It had happened in the early morning hours, about 3 a.m. But he said that he had this vacation planned for a while. It was the last chance for him to get away with his 5-year-old son. He's got a 3-year-old son, I believe. 5-year-old son's going to be starting kindergarten. He said that he was balancing what he felt is his responsibility with his family versus mayor, and he opted to take the trip, which was a very controversial decision, to say the least. Yeah,
for sure. And you mentioned that a lot of this has fallen on partisan lines, especially in the community. And I think we've seen in cities across the United States, regardless of actual crime rates, perception of crime and safety is really important for people. Do we have a sense of whether, these outcries about crime in Cincinnati align with reality in terms of how much, violent crime there's been in the city lately?
I mean, this definitely has heightened it, even among some liberal-leaning people. It is definitely, I would say it's a concern across the board, definitely more so the more Republican you get. But even before this had happened, a downtown business owner and resident was stabbed in his home and killed by someone's been a burglar who was wanted. He had cut off his ankle monitor, has been charged with the stabbing. So it was already a top issue on both sides of the aisle. The statistics, it's kind of like mixed. Overall violent crime is down in the city, but in the downtown area, it's up compared to last year. What's driving that? That's right now up for debate because, statistics go up and down every year. It's not going to be the same, but is it a trend towards more violent crime down there? That's something that there hasn't been a consensus on yet. But it is a concern. How big of a concern, though, just depends on, often depends on one's politics.
Yeah, that's fair. And as we've kind of alluded to, this quickly became way bigger than Cincinnati, even though it's a Cincinnati issue. Vice President J.D. Vance knocked cities, including Columbus and Canton, for, quote, lawlessness. Senator Bernie Moreno has threatened to withhold federal funding from Cincinnati. And Vivek Ramaswamy, the GOP nominee for governor, organized a town hall this week to talk about crime. What was that like?
Well, I mean, it got very noisy. I mean, politically, we've seen this before to some extent with like the Haitians in Springfield. We also had several years ago a Covington Catholic student that went viral, Nick Sandman, at a protest on the mall in D.C. But there's some noise on it online in the first 24 hours, and then it gets picked up by larger accounts 48 hours later, and then it just kind of spreads across the country. But it's definitely been one of the top political issues in the country in the last week.
Yeah, like what came up at the town hall? I mean, did you feel like it was really locally focused, or was a lot of that politics kind of hovering in the background?
I mean, it was a political rally. I mean, it was mostly almost all Republican and Vivek Ramaswamy supporters. It wasn't like there was the first question, the guy was somewhat confrontational just about, why only, Black people in the video were arrested. After that question, Vivek Ramaswamy answered the question, and then it was pretty much all a lot of Republican talking points. And it had the feel of a political rally.
Interesting. So I know 6 people have been charged related to the fight. In terms of like city politics and policy, I mean, where do you think Cincinnati goes from here? I know, for example, that they're either debating or already instituted a curfew.
Yes, that was yesterday. They passed a stricter curfew. There was one already on the books, but it was rarely enforced. And it'll be interesting, actually, to see, and that's going to be something I'm going to be looking at closely, how much this is enforced, because the police said while they were considering this that it's not an easy thing for police to, like, every time they see a youth to take him in the custody, and, it is time consuming, as well as it can get kind of murky because there are exceptions. Like if, a young person is out running an errand or going back from a job, they're in violation of the curfew. But what this does was it makes it uniform, because there were different curfew times for people under the age of 16 versus 16 to 18. Now it's a citywide curfew of 11 o'clock at night, 7 days a week, which police say will make it easier to enforce because it's just simple. It's like if you're under 18 and you're out after 11, then you're not legally allowed to be there. And then there's a special curfew district downtown at 9 p.m. in certain boundaries in the central, business district and over the Rhine, designed to curb what the city has seen in recent years, large groups of youth hanging out, sometimes menacing people, and that they're hoping that will curb that. They're going to open up these curfew centers to take them if they can't get them to go home or can't get them home immediately. So the argument against this, though, is that a lot of these crimes, like in the situation of the man who was stabbed to death in his home, and also in this fight, they weren't underage. So they were adults.
Right.
So really wouldn't have addressed that.
Yeah, something I've been wondering too, and I'm curious what you've heard. There are homicides that happen in Cincinnati. There are other very serious crimes that happen in Cincinnati, as they do in places across the country. And not to diminish the fight, of course, but has there been any concern that, the city's investing all this effort in responding to this fight because it was caught on social media, essentially?
Most definitely. And some of the council members have tried to make that point. One of them, Councilman Scotty Johnson, who heads the Public Safety Committee that oversees police issues, was at the mayor's press conference this past Friday, was blaming the media for blowing this out of proportion. Although, I mean, there's, this is spread across social media before even any news stories were done on it. But there is the perception among some, particularly people in the city government, that the brawl has been used for political purposes and by opportunists to paint the city with a broad brush however they want to.
Yeah. Do you see this continuing to be a big issue, or especially with, someone like Ramaswamy holding a town hall as he's campaigning for governor, or, is there going to be another new thing for everyone to talk about at some point?
That's a good question. I mean, it does seem like in the last 5 years, there's always a new thing that comes along every few weeks. I don't know. It could be something like the Haitian issue in Springfield. I mean, this will percolate for, I'd say, at least a month or two more. I think it will be an issue in local races, but I mean, the way the news cycle is now and social media, there does seem to be something new that crops up every few weeks. So I guess we'll see. But I suspect it probably would be comparable to the issue that like the Haitian immigration in Springfield was in the presidential and statewide races.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Do you think that's reasonable?
Yeah, I definitely see the parallels there for sure. Not the least because Ramaswamy held town halls about both of those things.
That is correct, yeah. Good point.
And one more thing before you go. In other Southwest Ohio news, Vance recently went boating on the Little Miami River for his birthday. According to reporting from The Guardian, which we confirmed, Secret Service asked officials to temporarily raise the river's water levels so they could navigate safely. Perks of being the VP, I guess.